Hello, Mark and Teresa from Out of Office Camping. In this video, I take some time to show you how I went ahead and built this aluminum trunk. Now, this is not something that happened overnight. It's coming up on almost a year now, basically running this. And in this video, I'm going to go ahead and show you how I did this, but also keep in mind some of these methods you might find helpful, tricks and tips, because you can do a lot of the same build out without having to have a bender like I did and just using angle aluminum and a rivet gun. So at the end, I'm going to take some time to just talk about some different types of building methods that you could use just as well, and also why I chose to build this the way I did. So let's go ahead and get into it. Stay to the end so I can explain everything to you. One thing I really wanted to emphasize is you can see, like, we just have all these nets, bungee cords on both sides, and basically for the last year through all 4 seasons, which mainly we camp during the cold seasons because there's no bugs and people, we like people, but we have the stuff that we are using. And now that I know what stuff typically is always in the truck, what stuff I typically keep in my tote, and keep in mind, in the last year or so, or every trip we do, we realize, oh, we should have brought this, or we don't need that. And so it's a great opportunity to always kind of clean house and reassess. Now, so traditionally I was using cardboard for almost all my templates, and this is great because it's free typically. If you can find big sheets, it's wonderful. But a lot of times you end up with like these, you know, the creases of the boxes and stuff. And if you're trying to really build something out, you know, that can be a little, you just have to work around that. No big deal. It's worked for me based on what it is that I'm trying to create. So I always try to stock cardboard when I can, larger pieces that might have full panels. So that's a great starting point. But what I picked up for this project was actually just regular insulation. This is just a 1/2 inch, just regular, you know, like the pink foam insulation. This happens to be from Lowe's. It's green. It doesn't really matter, but I can easily just cut this and I'll take blue tape and tape everything together. I chose to go this route. This is basically going to be my kitchen. What's really neat with this is, and you'll see there's a lot of people out there who have camper builds and truck builds and stuff like that that are using the pack outs. They're just convenient because you can stack them and move them around, but you know, a sliding drawer. Now, sure, this box is here is not the least expensive option on the market. This box here comes in around, I think it was about 160 bucks or so. But 2 drawer slides, I mean, there are, you know, other things that say you were to buy some like goose gear or something like that. Check those out and see what the pricing is. And that's the other nice thing is I can get mounting plates. So you could take this box and you can hang it on a wall. You can hang it on, you know, you can set it on a floor. It locks in, which is really convenient. And I can stack all kinds of things to this. I mean, they make coolers, they make fans, they make lights. They make small little cases. So just a very simple thing to help me become a little bit more organized. You know, the flip side is I really like soft bags, and I plan to utilize a lot of those in order to continue to keep the weight down since I will be doing solid aluminum construction. And this isn't the cheapest, but once again, it's the convenient factor. For me, you can buy this, it's ready to go, put everything in it. As I continue to evolve, I can either downsize, I can change things around with the dividers, you name it. So a few things that I've learned, you know, obviously blue tape works great. Some kind of device, it's a, you know, straight edge that you can use when you're cutting your styrofoam, which is the 1/2 inch, any kind of X-Acto blade to do your line. Of course, the Sharpie and a tape measure. But one thing is really cool, if you're doing your measurements, this Heart little tape measure, just from Walmart, it's a locking tape measure. You know, those who might not know, Heart, you have Heart, Ryobi, and Milwaukee. They're all the same family. This is just the bottom of the family, but this is a really nice tape measure. I like the 12 foot, 12 inch, right? So what I can do is, I can basically, whatever my measurement is, like say I'm just trying to do 6 inches. I can take this, get it lined up to where it's 6 inches, and this is locking. When you pull out, it locks. And then I can just take this and just put it right up against that edge. And all I need to do is just simply push down, and that just leaves a mark. So once I leave my mark, I can come back with my device at straight edge and just simply take a Sharpie or whatever and just mark that out. So just like so, come back and then just go to town and cut. And this breaks really easy, so you can do a couple lines and do a snap. Just a couple little things that I found really helpful. Once again, this is great product to be working with for what I'm doing, and blue tape is your best friend. Just so you can see everything a little bit better, there's the two Devos lights with some poles in there. And right now I just have everything kind of just thrown in here, but I just wanted to see, like, will it all fit? Reliance water jug, cooler, two little step stools, and then all the bags over there. Now this wall here is, I started with this wall, and then I actually started with this over there, and then I felt with the awning, its energy is better this way with the flow because our cooler's in the back. So we're kind of walking around this way all the time. And if we're set up with the stove, the awning only goes so far. So I could do the stove here, still be able to reach around, or just take this tote, pull this out, slide it there, do the stove there, whatever. There are lots of options. So as I'm making some progress, I just wanted to share with you, I'm kind of making a mess right now, but my template with the 1/2-inch styrofoam insulation has only gone so far, just to get a general idea of what it looks like. But now I'm starting to fine tune things. So I pulled out some cardboard, and what I'm doing with the cardboard is I really want to see where this kind of comes in. So what's nice with this is little by little I'm cutting things away, but you take like a Sharpie and you can just basically take your Sharpie and just kind of draw around, like for example, whatever the shape is, in order to find your line. And that's what I'm doing right now. So that way, when I'm ready, I'll get this finished out. I can also take like another piece of cardboard and attach the cardboard down here so I can finish that out. Now, when I do my measurements, I'll actually do the measurements from the bottom of the wheel well to the wheel well, so I know what the length is before this curve starts. But just slow and easy, just kind of start, getting your cardboard in there, see where it sits, and start looking at stuff if you have unusual shape, and just start to cut it little by little. And if you mess up, like I said, just take some blue tape, tape it back together, or just put another piece of cardboard tape to it and just keep cutting. And also remember, when you go to drop your template on top of your piece of metal, whatever you're cutting, you definitely want to go a little bit in, because your Sharpie marker or whatever device you're using, that way you have a little bit of wiggle room. Because if it's too tight, then you're going to take some off. But it's really what matter you feel comfortable with. For me, I'm going to take the Sharpie and run it along here on the piece of metal. So I want to make sure it is in a little bit. Just wanted to share with you a tool that I found after I finished this build. It's called the Profiler Plus. It's great for doing along your edges. So basically the way this works is it has like a little roller wheel at the end, a spot for your pencil. This can be slid back and forth, and then this kind of just locks down the pencil. I haven't read the directions completely. I haven't really had a whole lot of time to try it, but I believe this could come in really handy. So basically just keep it horizontal with your surface, and you just drag it along in order to help scribe the mark with the pencil onto your cardboard or whatever material you're using. Profiler Plus. Something else to consider. before we get started, I moved in the 5x10 1/8 aluminum sheet. One of the tools that I like, I use this for stonework, but it works great for anything flat surface, not porous. It's a Grabo. Basically, it's a suction tool, and it has a digital readout. So more or less, just put it on there, push the green button, it shuts off as soon as it gets up to pressure, and then it holds the pressure for that whole time. Basically, it's just telling me what it's what the pressure is. So now I can, you know, basically lift up that sheet. So with that, made it really easy to take this full sheet by myself, grab it, walk it around, and bring it in here and drop it down on the installation board. So I can now cut it. So next up, I don't want to bore you with the cutting, but basically I'm just going to use these circular saw, put like a little track, have everything marked with the scribe. Next on the list, I basically just took a grinder with a sanding pad, 120 grit pad, and just kind of went through the edges. Just took off some of the burrs from the saw, so that's nice and smooth now. And what I'll do is, since the saw was cut on this side, this is actually going to be the inside of the cabinets. And then when I start to do my measurements, since this is a factory edge and that's a factory edge, I'll use those to get all my measurements for this whole piece. So I'm going to go ahead and start measuring. I have to basically cut this 10-foot section down to about 8 feet, 8.5 feet actually. We have our piece all measured out, cut the end. Next it goes in the bender. And what I've done here is on this end here, there's a spot where I'll bend it. Add an extra inch. So I'll start with the middle bend right in there. Have the spot right here, which would be cut out for the Milwaukee. So that's actually the bottom there, top here. And the plan is, once it kind of goes in, I have some rubber trim that I may add over on this corner, and then also on that end. And then on the bottom, I'm thinking about just doing like some rubber hose, something soft, or just doing some traditional dollar store carpets to kind of even out the pressure with that edge, since we have the bed rug. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this started. I think I said in one of the other videos 3 bends, but it's actually only 2. We got one here, and then one on the end, and that's it. And then a cut, and then this should just wrap right around. So we're gonna go ahead and get this in the bender and see how it goes. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with the first bend. I have the piece on my line here, which I scribed. I have a little scale there, which tells me when I'm roughly at the 90-degree mark. So I'm gonna be trying to shoot for that, which is the little arrow, red arrow. Everything's locked down. So now at this point, it's pretty much just bend. And sometimes with the metal, you want to go a little bit past, because it has a kind of a little bit of a spring to it. Pretty good. We're just going to start with that and see what we have. Go ahead and release it. Then we can also do is have like a little, and I can just kind of get a sense of what that looks like. And you can see it's pretty much right on the money there. So we got a good 90-degree curve. Sorry about that. Next, I'm just going ahead and set it in the truck and see how it looks. I have one more bend, but that I can do after I assess what I'm working with here. Let me get some light. All right, so basically we'll see if everything worked out with the cut. The nice thing is, I should have a little bit of space over on this side here. And what I'm shooting for is roughly these screws here. That's about where what I was aiming for. This would sit like right in there. So you can see with my cutout, what I did with the template worked out really nice. I'm really happy with that. I don't really need to go any further. So that's what I'll work with. And you know, I could, if I needed to sand some stuff down or put some rubber trim on there, I could. But stick with this. Next will be the bend over here on this side. And this is 8, I came in 8 inches. So it's hard to see. But basically there's a scribe mark right here. And I should have a bend here, but this, once again, this should just be 7 inches. It's 8, just in case. Gave me a little bit of room in case I needed to cut anything. So I'll go ahead and pull this back out now that I know that that looks good, and bend that. So I just cut off 1 extra inch on this. So everything should be right. Release it. Slide it out. Now this one, if I had to make any small adjustments to that, I could. So it kind of comes back a little bit. See how it kind of comes back a bit? So I can take that and fold it out. That's no biggie. And it looks like I just have to take out that little screw. And it looks like it swings out a bit more. So I can take some of this down, but I'll take that screw out. And I can just double check this too off this edge here. Yeah, so it's just a hair past. It's 8 1/8. Back here, oh, make sure I don't have it all the way. Here we go. All right, let's try that again. So this is just almost on 8, and this is out about 8 1/4. So basically I just need to take down a little bit of this edge, and what I'll do is I'll probably just kind of come in and just lightly grind this down a little bit. I'll take that screw out, and that get me a little closer. And one thing I really like to do that I learned from my buddy Jason, we were building out F350, was C-clamps. They're great. So basically what I've done here is just some kind of metal edge, and my circular saw will basically, this is like created like a track. So I can just run it down, and I've offset it by 1.5 inches off the line that I want to cut. So it just allows to keep everything nice and clean and nice and straight. I wanted to take a quick moment to share some of the things that I've been doing here. Get too carried away, but basically I made a L-shaped bracket out of the 1/8. It's about 37 inches in between. Here is what I cut this piece of metal for. It gives me a little bit of extra space. This one here, as I'd mentioned before, if you have a local fabricating shop in your area, that's about, I did that one here at 55 inches. Now a couple things to note. So I found the center line off of this piece of metal that I cut to 55. Found that center line, and then from there measured out. Each one of these inserts, what I found with my measurements, were about 25 inches on center. Now, I just put a piece of metal here. So this would basically, this would be the bench. And that piece will sit on that, and then it will bend back around. Now what's nice is I'll have this one sitting over here like that, and that way when this metal comes across here, this one's actually going to be grabbing it just as well. It's going to be right at, of course, this edge here. Now this would be folded. This is 4 feet, so I didn't have any problem. 48 inches, 4 feet here, so I'll be able to bend that lip over. And then this section here just goes straight. So this will sit on that, sits back there. If I thought I needed more support, if I was using thinner metal, I could do another angle here, like maybe a 1-inch angle just attached to here going out. But I believe that this is pretty strong. So we'll see. And once you put bends and things like this, I have one more bend. This is going to make it a little stronger just as well. And then over here on this side, I'll be utilizing this one where I'll have another little piece that comes down. Might make it a little longer. But it comes down and keeps this kind of held in place. And then I'm also going to need to do some brackets on the body using one of the tools in order to put some screws in. So I'll probably do this one here as a shelf. Then I'll do a stop point here that keeps this attached, and here. So that way everything can be removed. But it is nice being able to use these factory. Now the one tool that I've found really helpful for trying to figure out your heights. So I know that basically sitting on the carpet, or when I cut this piece of metal, it's 20 inches. So, sorry, my finger keeps getting in the way there. So what's nice with this is I was able to set this and put this up against the wall. And by doing so, without this piece, by doing so, what I did was I tried to find the center of this hole. And then I just took like a little Sharpie and I just drew a little Sharpie mark right across here. So I knew what that was. And then I just measured, from 20 up. Now, for me, doing the 20 inches, that came into, I think I ended up just going 1 3/4 inches up. Now I wasn't so much worried about this being maybe a little bit, because it's 1/8, might be a little bit taller. Because see, since it sits on the pipe, it has a tendency to want to roll down. So I was okay with this sitting a little higher in case it wants to roll this way. But little square like this comes in really handy just to figure out, once again, your height to sit on the floor and stuff like that. And you're trying to figure out what the factory what the measurements are with, like, because I have the bed rug in here. So it just gives me a better reference, or just a tool to assist me, because I'm basically building to the truck as I go. And one last little note, just to clarify, if you say you're trying to figure out where your starting point is, once again, like I said, this piece of metal I did at 20. So whatever your front one is, basically that's going to be your back sitting on, long as you have the same surface front and back. So if this is 20 to the top of this, so what I did is I made sure that that sat at 20, so the piece of metal is sitting on top of this, just like it sits on top of this. So that's really important to keep in mind. Now I just keep on thinking of all these things. What I did here, and you could probably buy some angle, but this piece here, this ledge is 2 inches and this is 2.5. I wanted to make sure I have plenty of room here on the top. So say you were to buy a piece of that, which is going to be the fastest thing to do. If there's a 2.5 or 3, you could cut it down, and that's what you probably want to do, because you don't want too much coming in, because then it ruins your ability to put stuff in here. So that's the next thing I have to check, just to make sure whatever I'm going to put in there will actually fit. I may need to come back and actually cut that back to about 1.5 inches. So we'll see. So a couple things, we were talking about the fitting of the different components that you take with you. Water jug is one of them. So instead of cutting it all the way back, I just basically did a cutout so it's easy to drop in. So that way I don't remove a lot of the metal I've already cut. Now this side over here is something I want to talk about once again with the square angle. It's nice because everything's sitting on these surfaces, but if you look, you can see like this actually rocks back. So where the grommets sit on this one, it causes the tube is actually tilted in because the sides have more of an angle. So what I'm going to do here is you can see where the space is, the gap there. I'm going to go ahead and put this in the bender and then just bend this up a little bit more so I get that basically even with this plane all the way around. So everything's just sitting there. So it's another nice thing to have. I did check the measurements. They came in about the same. So it's 1.75 inches is what I'm doing from the floor. Now, once again, I got the bed rug in here. So, but you know, it doesn't really matter. 20 inches up. And then to get to the holes, it comes in at basically 1.75 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and bend this, make sure it checks out to be about even. And then I'll go ahead and put the, figure out the holes and measure that all out, get it marked and drilled. So I got that bent up a little bit past 90, and you can see now it's a little bit upward, but that's okay because the spring, the weight of the piece itself that sits on there will probably even it all out. So I'm going to leave it like that. And what's really nice too with these, you can, if you say you're building something similar to this and you need to make small adjustments, you can either add a piece of metal with just using like a 3M tape, or you can also use gaskets that stick on. I'll show you one of those in the F350. So once again, you can almost stack them or get different thicknesses if you need to make any adjustments. And it's very possible that with all this metal, we don't want to have vibration. So I may even put some of those on there, but those are little things that you can do to make adjustments. Same thing, say you took this piece and you cut it maybe not quite right. You could use like either like fuel line to slice at the bottom, which could sit right there along that edge, and that'll lift it up a bit. So a lot of little things you can do to add to your materials in order to make adjustments. Another little trick I like to share with trying to get these holes lined up from the factory. What I've done is I've just taken this piece of metal and simply just placed it so it looks even off of this bracket here and that bracket there. So it's a nice spacing. And then what I've gone, as you can see, I have it held up here, and I've just taken like a pencil or a marker and just mark the center of that on both sides. Come back in with this, sitting like that on that pencil mark here, and then I can just basically draw down. And that's it. So the very last step is taking the cardboard, making templates, then using that to transfer to the metal and then bend the metal. I didn't really show this, but this is a little spot of me cutting the metal. And that pretty much concludes the build. Here I have the countertops all finished up. As you can see, the fold here in the front, and then there's the cut right there in the corner where the panels come together. And all these tops actually sit on that lip like you saw earlier. So this one's folded here on 2 spots. And then this is the cabinet, which I really didn't show this open with the shelf, and I didn't really explain how I built the shelf, but you can see it's folded up here. I have the flush screws that I've put in there with the nuts on the back side. There's 3 of them on this side here, and then on this end here I have one just as well. And then I've used pop rivets and made some brackets. This is mounted to the truck inside here with the factory hardware, and then I've made up 2 more brackets and riveted them, and then put in using the riv nut the inserts right into the body panel there in the pickup bed. I'm showing you the riv nut tool that I picked up along with the rib nuts. I added some extra holes, but for the most part I used as much of the factory bolt spots on the truck in order to basically attach the metal panels to, and that makes it really easy to take in and out. So as you can see, there's a little bit of work involved in trying to figure this all out. Now there's a lot of different, once again, methods that you can use, but just to kind of backtrack, this build out was inspired after doing Chris has AuCab with a bunch of organized systems, I guess you could say. And because of that, you know, originally I started out but just running like bungee cords on the sidewalls here, which I'll go ahead and drop in a photo of that so you can see. And also really didn't know, you know, we had been camping before, so through the years, it's I guess going on 3 years of, like, I guess you could say adventure travel or overlanding or off-grid camping, you start to kind of downsize what you have. And that's what's important to think about, is what you're going to take. And when you're doing your build out, what you want to build around. I would not suggest getting a vehicle and doing a build out the minute you have it. Take some totes, run some totes. We had the Plano totes that we ran originally when we started out with the rooftop tent, CVT, and that was great, and the great simple system, and then went to just traditional totes, and then moved into bungee cords and soft bags. The lids, if you put anything on top, well, now you got to move it all off. So it's really nice because it does keep everything out of the way. What I've done with this build is I put some of the sound material to keep it a little bit not so metal sounding, and then also I talked about using some of the different pieces of rubber, so I use that in order to make like little adjustments. And then the magnets kind of also help kind of keep it locked down. The other reason too, other thing that I did was with this build out, I did the cutouts around this so it will keep it from sliding this way. And then the main build was really around this. So when I started out with this because I wanted basically a kitchen. This itself is basically the kitchen. Everything in here, you know, helps us kind of stay organized. I can slide this out. It can be a step to keep everything tidy. So, you know, it can sit on the tailgate. It can sit anywhere. In the bulkhead there, everything's pretty much across the middle, keeping everything well balanced. And we have the porta potty in there, water, stove, extra stove, propane, leveling blocks, rugs, two like step stools, cushions. I mean, it's just crazy. But it's nice is like when you're working with the truck, and I'm going to talk about the ergonomics of the vehicle and why I did it this way. But with this, same thing. Everything's just, you can lift it up and get in there, and I can kind of stand it up. So that was pretty much the idea of the build out. When I slide this out here, I also have a great deal of extra space where I keep like the chair, my chair, the foam pool noodles are for the awning, because when the awning kind of comes up here, it can touch the bars mainly on the other side. So I have the pool noodles there. Over in this corner, I just have another like Blue Ridge Overland bag, which is just Velcroed right up in there. Now in the upper driver's side compartment here, this was designed around the 2 Devos Light Rangers. I have the Devos filters in the Blue Ridge bag there. This bag right here is the toiletry. And you can see everything laid out here. So basically the toiletry, the Devos lights, the rods for the GFC. The main thing that I was thinking about with the build out was how I travel. So as I travel around here, everything is right here. The cooler is right here. Power station's over there. That's not something I really need to get to, but everything I'm doing is on the passenger side. So food prep and all that. So I can have the wing open here. I can have our little electric air fryer or kettle here prepping foods. And you can also have like the SeaSucker put right here. And on this side here, same thing, can access basically the countertops right here, and it makes it really nice, and it's a nice height to reach into. So with that being said, you know, once again with these building methods, I'm going to show you Teresa's truck. Put a couple photos of that in. That was just rivets and aluminum. And that's a really simple building method. We'll have a video coming up on that. There's also Easy Tube, company out of Pennsylvania, makes these like 1-inch aluminum tubes with these connectors. Really simple. A lot of people tend to gravitate towards 80-20, 20-20 metal, which is nice. It's expensive. The connectors are expensive. And then all your hardware, it just adds up, and it's a lot of weight. It's completely over-engineered. So the benefits of going with the aluminum is that it's very thin. As you can see right here, you have a very thin wall. That's pretty much my structure. The other thing is it's already finished, so I don't have to do any kind of finish or prep. By keeping this bare metal, I can also use the SeaSucker suction cups and suction cup things to this as like anchor points, which is nice. Some of the cons could be like during the winter time, because we've already been, this is now going on the second winter season with this build out, is that the metal is cold. Any metal is going to transfer temperature. So that, even with the sound deadening, it doesn't matter. It's going to be chilly. So that's the downside with using metal. But the benefits are with the metal is that it's lightweight, it's quick to shape and put together. It's very cost effective when it's all said and done. So it's just a great idea, great consideration. But once again, I hope you found some things that you feel would help you kind of be inspired to get out there and do it. And once, you know, there's plywood everybody uses. You can do your mock-ups with plywood, but definitely start with the styrofoam. Cut it all out. As you saw, I had one side over here where I had a wall, and it didn't feel right. So my flow travels all the way around the vehicle. Think about your flow, your systems, and stuff like that. So thank you for watching the video. I hope you found some of this information helpful. If you did, please take the time to subscribe to the channel and give us a like and comment. Let us know, like, what are you doing in yours? What did you do? What are you planning on doing? So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you have going on. Thanks for watching.